Hello and welcome back to our Explore series. In today's practice we are exploring tapas. Now this is not the little bites of Spanishy food. Tapas in terms of yoga translates to the idea of discipline. So maybe not as enjoyable as a concept as the Spanish version of tapas, but nonetheless an important part of practicing yoga. Really an important part of our lives, whatever we're trying to do. Discipline is at the heart of getting stuff done. It's at the heart of living in the way that we actually want to live. And often when it comes to practicing yoga, we know how beneficial it is to practice regularly, and yet we'll still let it slip sometimes, and I'm entirely including myself in this and guilty of this too. But discipline is what it takes to keep coming back to the practice, to make it a priority. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit through this practice today, tapas. Now this will be a soft yin yoga practice, slow and restorative. If you have a couple of cushions nearby, then please grab them. This could be kind of sofa cushions like this, it could just be pillows from your bed. You want probably two of them so you can stack them up relatively tall like this. And then maybe a blanket as well if you've got that to hand. And then we're going to come into a reclined cobbler's pose, or butterfly pose it's sometimes known as in yin yoga. And we're going to use the cushions behind the back so that we come into a back bend. So bring your cushions in, leave a bit of space for your head at the back of your mat, and you want the cushions to be fairly comfortable under your back as you lay down like this. So you can see I've ended up with a nice arch through the back, but my head is supported by the mat. So it might take a little bit of shuffling, a bit of rearranging, deciding on how many cushions you actually need there. And then I invite you to bring your arms straight up overhead for this version. And rest your arms on the ground there, taking them as wide as they need to go for it to be comfortable. And then bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees open. You can shuffle your feet a bit further away from you, or you can bring them closer towards your body until you find the right spot where it's a feeling of stretching around the hips, but it's not so intense that you're going to struggle to hold this for long. So taking the first sort of 30 seconds or so to shuffle around, to make small adjustments to the posture, and then starting to settle into stillness. That could be closing your eyes, or it could be keeping the eyes open, whatever feels more relaxing, and most importantly, whatever makes you feel safe. So never feel that you have to close your eyes in a yoga class if you don't feel safe in that space with your eyes closed. Whether you have the eyes open or closed, try to soften and relax the muscles around your eyes. Soften, relax the muscles around your mouth as well. Loosening your jaw. Let's take a breath in through the nose together. Sighing gently out through the mouth. Again, breathing in through the nose. Sighing out through the mouth. And one more breath like that. Then let your breathing settle into a comfortable rhythm. Breathing in and out through the nose now. As we settle in for our practice together today, start to focus on the concept of discipline, tapas. Now this doesn't mean just being really hard on yourself for no reason. It doesn't mean telling yourself off when you're not getting things done. The concept of discipline is about creating a reasonable expectation of what you require from yourself. So if yoga is a practice that's important to you, if you really feel the benefits from practicing yoga, or it's something that you know you want to incorporate into your life more, then tapas, discipline, is maybe the most important of all of these yamas and niyamas that we've talked about in this series. Without discipline, everything else kind of falls apart. We need to practice a certain level of discipline to show up and roll out our yoga mat as often as we feel we need to. That doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be getting up at the crack of dawn every single day and doing an hour of practice. Again, it's about setting a reasonable expectation for yourself and then finding discipline to make sure that that happens. So it might be more reasonable to practice yoga 3 times a week. Maybe it's early in the morning or maybe it's later in the day. Finding what is a suitable frequency for you is the first and most important thing. And then we bring in this practice of discipline, trying to make sure that we stay committed to the practice in the way that we've laid out for ourselves. And discipline is a practice. It's not something that overnight we're really good at. But like anything, like a muscle, discipline becomes easier with time. Of course, there will always be days when you really just can't be bothered and don't feel that you have the energy to do the thing that you have decided you should be doing, whether that's yoga, work, or anything else. But the more we practice being disciplined over time, those days where there is no motivation will become less frequent. We're staying with this posture a little bit longer, but if your hips, your back are starting to struggle with the knees open, you could bring the knees together instead, shuffling the feet a bit wider on the mat and dropping the knees in to support each other. Taking a few final breaths in this reclined butterfly pose. And take a deeper breath. If you still have your knees open, gently bring your knees back together. And then bring your arms down by your sides to rest. Tuck your chin towards your chest and start to lift your way up into a seated position. Ooh, moving the cushions aside, and if you have a blanket, you might like to sit onto the blanket now. So something just a little bit softer, not quite as tall to sit on. And straighten out your legs ahead of you. Rest your hands on your legs for a moment. Relax your shoulders. So our next posture is known in yin yoga as shoelace pose. You, I think, have practiced this with me in this series already in a different way, but I'll talk you into it again here and you can find what works best for you in this posture. So bend your left knee to begin with and cross your left foot over to the outside of your right leg, and then shuffle your foot in towards your body as close as you can, coming into this position. So we're targeting the outer hip with this stretch. If that feels like enough for today, stay there. If you feel there's a bit further you could go, lean over to the right, bend your right knee and bring your foot into the side of your body, coming up to sit as upright as you can. It's okay if you're a little bit kind of tilted to one side. So as you come up to sit, have a little shuffle. If your knees are struggling with this, then come back to the first version with the bottom leg straight. So finding a shoelace pose. Sit nice and tall. You have the option to take the hands behind you and lean back into the hands there. If it's feeling quite intense around the hips, maybe the lower back, then I'd advise you to stay with this version for today. If you feel there's a little further you could go, if you're not really feeling it too much yet, bring your hands out in front of you and start to lean forwards. And gradually, you're likely to start feeling this quite a bit more. So close your eyes again if you feel safe and comfortable with the eyes closed. Deepen your breath. And I know this can feel like quite a powerful, strong posture, a deep stretch. And here is another opportunity to stay with that discipline practice, tapas. When we're within a yoga asana class or home practice, so that's the posture practice, there are often times where we really want to come out of the pose. And sometimes that's the best thing to do if it's aggravating an injury or a condition that you have. Sometimes we just want to come out of the pose because it feels intense, because we're uncomfortable. And this is where you have to make the decision about whether to be really kind and gentle with your body and come out of the pose, or whether to go down the route of discipline, tapas, staying with something a bit challenging because you know it will benefit you. I'm just taking a few final breaths with this posture on this side, so you could go a little deeper into the pose, you could come out of the pose, again see where you need to be. Final breath here. Slowly start to lift, take your hands behind you. As you lean back into your hands, you should be able to gently uncross the legs. Give the feet a gentle rock side to side, just easing off the hips. Well done. Now before we take that to the other side, we're going to open the hips out. So open the feet out wide as they'll comfortably go. And if you find this posture quite tough, if you know that going into a wide-legged forward fold always feels pretty restricted, if you have those two cushions nearby, you can pop them under each of your knees. So you've just got a bit more support and a slight bend in the knees. I'm not saying it's going to make it a really easy, comfy posture, but it could just bring a little bit more comfort and support for those joints. So you can give that a try. Have a little shuffle on your sitting bones, bring your hands in front of you. Keep your feet soft and relaxed rather than flexing your feet. And then gradually start to walk your hands forwards, round your back, round your shoulders, and let your head drop down. Tuning into your breath and your body here. So all I mean by that is paying attention to your breathing, paying attention to what you feel in your body. Try to soften again through your forehead, around your jaw. Let your head go as much as you are comfortable with. This is a powerful posture for stretching and releasing the fascia all around the hips and through the lower back. And with postures like this, it can be a little bit challenging to just stay still. So this again requires a little bit of discipline, a bit of tapas, staying committed to the posture, not just physically staying in the pose and being still, but staying committed mentally to the practice as well. So we could have two very different experiences in a posture like this. The first one could be staying in the pose for a few minutes while planning what you're going to do later on today, while thinking about your shopping list when you go to the supermarket later. Or staying in this posture for a few minutes and focusing your attention on the pace of your breathing, paying attention to where you feel a stretch in your body and how that stretch might change with time, and committing to bringing your attention back to those things when your mind starts to become distracted. I know that it's not always easy. I certainly don't find it easy myself to stay focused, to stay with the practice. But as long as you stay committed to trying to do that, trying to stay present, there's a level of discipline, of tapas being practiced already. So going into the last 30 seconds or so here, if there's a little further you're ready to go, you could drop in a bit more. If you're ready to come out of the pose, you could sit up and lean back into your hands. Final breath here. And slowly start to lift back up. Take your time. See how it feels to release the stretch, leaning back into your hands, maybe stretching the legs out in front of you now, or releasing the legs in some way. Final deep breath here. And then we're going to move into shoelace pose on the second side. So with the legs extended, we bend the right knee, cross the right foot to the outside of the left leg, and shuffle the foot in towards the left hip. Now you have the option to stay with this version, or you could lean over to the left, bend the left leg, and bring the foot in towards the side of the body. So see which would be preferable on this side, whether to have the bottom leg straight or bent, depending mostly on how safe your knees feel in the posture. You don't have to do the same thing you did on the last side. And shuffle, come as upright as you can through the spine. You could start by leaning back into the hands, taking a few breaths here to begin. If that feels like a powerful stretch already, stay with it. If you feel that there's further you need to go, take the hands forwards, start to lean into the posture. Keeping the softness through the jaw, through the forehead. Coming back to your breath. into the last few breaths here. And then slowly start to release the posture. Coming back up to sit, lean back into your hands, release the legs. Take a moment there to recover in your own way. I'm going to come back down to the ground next. So move your blanket aside. You might like to cover yourself over once we're laying down. And if you have the two cushions, bring them under your knees like this. So have them just side by side, a little bit of support for the knees. And then come down to your back. Cover yourself over with your blanket if you'd like. And find a comfortable position here as we come to our last few minutes of reflection and meditation. Let your arms rest either down by your sides or with your hands resting on top of your body. Relax your shoulders against the mat and start to soften. Breathing in slowly and releasing the breath out slowly. Now through the practice, I've talked mostly about how to apply tapas to your yoga practice. But of course, the yamas and the niyamas, these moral codes that we've been exploring through this series, are not just designed to be used when you're on your yoga mat. These are things that we should be trying to implement in our lives overall, day to day, in our interactions with others and how we look after ourselves. So my question for you to consider today is, what is one small habit you could implement to bring some more discipline into an area of your life that lacks it? What is one small habit you could implement to bring more discipline into an area of your life that lacks it? Take a deep breath. And when you feel ready, gently wiggle your fingers, your toes. Start to bring a little bit of energy back to your body. I'm going to leave you there for today, so stay and rest a bit longer if you have time. Spend some more time thinking and reflecting on the niyama of tapas, discipline. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.